So even those of us who are in recovery and practice those 5 things every day, we still can get overburdened taking care of other people or doing too much. And if we're in recovery from codependency, we'll be very aware of that. And then we know when we need to pull back and do some self-care. And it's difficult to do self-care if you don't have healthy self-esteem. And, in order to recover from codependency, we have to have some healthy self-esteem on board and how to set healthy boundaries. So I want to talk today about some self-care ideas for you. And, we're going in tomorrow and the next day, New Year's Day. There will be a lot of people making New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions are kind of like diets and budgets. You go on a diet to go off of it. You make a New Year's resolution to break it 2 days later, And so...
It's okay, I'm video and taping her though. It's a post on Facebook, so keep talking.
So, we've got a few interruptions here, but anyway.
Just go for it, I've got you.
The thing about it is... I kind of lost my train of thought, but anyway, if we're in good recovery from an addiction and then codependency, we can even in recovery in certain times, particularly around the holidays, can overextend ourselves and do too much. So I want to go over a few things about self-care. And really the most powerful relationship any of us will ever have is a relationship with ourselves. If we don't have a relationship with ourselves, and take care of ourselves, how can we have anything to give to anyone else? And self-care is not selfish. Intimacy, the definition of intimacy is into me, I see. And, we need to look inward and look at ourselves and, have a healthy relationship with ourselves in order to keep our own cup filled up so we can help others. Otherwise, there's nothing in the cup to give. It becomes an empty cup. So self-care is important in maintaining a healthy relationship with ourselves and people we love. If we don't take care of ourselves, we're probably not very easy to get along with. We put off doing things. We might get back in our addiction, and it's not self-centered to take care of yourselves. It means doing things daily that take care of our minds and our bodies and our souls. No one's going to do that for us. No one. Zero. If we don't take care of ourselves, like I said, no one's going to do it for us. And so it's important then to learn how to engage in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress. Stress around the holidays gets everyone. I think, I don't know everyone, but I think it is that stress is, and particularly during these last couple of years of the pandemic, it was real bad and then it got better and then it's kind of getting bad again or whatever. And anyway, it's been a stressful couple of years. In March, it will be 2 full years since the pandemic started. So, COVID-19 has changed our world. People have lost loved ones. It's, they've been sick themselves. So during the time of change, of any kind of change and uncertainty, it is even more important to incorporate self-care and structure into your life. So I'm going to give you some few ideas. This is nothing new. You've heard all of this. But are you doing it? That's the thing. Are you taking the action? One of the things that is so important to all of us, I don't care what our age is to get in some form of exercise at least 4 or 5 times a week. And you don't have to go to a gym in order to exercise. You can do it in your living room with, there's every kind of video you can imagine. Or the best thing that I like, and I think it's the most important, and all you need is a good pair of tennis shoes and the willingness to get outside and walk, get outside in the air, get outside in nature. So exercise is extremely, extremely important. And then, you all know this, and eating disorder people particularly, but all of us. I mean, I am recovering from an eating disorder, but it's important for us to eat healthy. And the foods we choose are so important. Choose the right foods that will make our bodies operate the way that they need to operate, and where we can, when we eat right and choose the right foods, our whole body, works better. We stopped yesterday to get gasoline. Misty and I had been in town on our regular Tuesday doing some shopping. And I have a nice little Lexus car. I love it. It's serves me well. And I serve it well. When we stop to get gas, it does not like that cheap gas. I have to put the premium in it, and it thanks me for it, and it runs well on premium gas. And that's the same way with our bodies. Don't, I caution all of us against putting junk food in our bodies. Pay attention to what you put in your vehicle. Our bodies are just what is the vehicle that God gave us to get around the earth, to go from point A to point B. It's our vehicle. That's what it is. And if we don't take care of it, it will not serve us. It will not work very well for us. So exercise and eat healthy. And this is particularly true to people early in recovery from alcoholism. When I was in the drug alcohol business in the beginning, the man who trained me, Joe McQuaney, told me, he said, one of the best things to remember with addicts early in recovery, you've got to feed them good, because most of them had not been eating, they've been drinking, they've not taken care of themselves. If they do eat, they eat junk food. And he said, your cook and the people in the kitchen are the most important people on the treatment team. They are part of the treatment team. And, we tell Misty that all the time. She is important to our clients, but it's really important to feed them well. And Joe told me, and basically Joe gave me, a rundown on an idea for a food plan that's basically what we cover here. So eat healthy. I've just about beat that to death. And because it will affect our mental health and our energy. That's simple. And then number 3 is get enough rest. Sleep. For adults, 7 to 9 hours. I used to kind of brag years ago when I had a house full of kids and was busy. I used to kind of brag, and I was in my work addiction even as a young mother. But I'd kind of brag that I could go on 5 to 6 hours sleep, sometimes 4. I'd lay down for a little while, sleep a little bit, and then get up and run again. Ran a tight household. My bonus son told me I ran the house like a staff sergeant. And when he went to the Marine Corps and had a staff sergeant, he called me back. I was the first person he called, and he thanked me for teaching him how to make up a bed and clean the bathroom and to keep his area cleaned up, because that's what he had to do in the Marine Corps. So I don't know how I got off onto cleaning, but it is important to keep our areas clean. Our outsides reflects the inside. If you live in a messy, nasty house, You show me someone that has a nasty, messy house, and I'll show you someone that has a messy insides. Our outsides reflect our insides. Now, I'm not talking about people have to be, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about keeping things in order and, and clean. It's just, all right, I'm going to get back to sleeping. And really, during the time of stress, it's so important to sleep 7 to 9 hours. And if you can't sleep, rest, but have uninterrupted rest. Don't have social media. Don't be watching TV on your phone. And I know we're all guilty of that. But rest. Just lay there, do some deep breathing, and rest. And you can teach yourself how to get to sleep. I have taught myself, and one thing is to get still, to get very still. And, one of the things that early in recovery, my sponsor would have me do a 10th step every night. And I told her one day, I wanted to do it perfect, absolutely perfect. And I told her one day, I said, I'll start out doing that 10th step, and before I know it, I've gone to sleep. And she said, wonderful. And she said, what are you doing when you go to sleep? I said, I'm usually praying for anybody that I've done harm to that day, or, I'm praying. And she said, perfect. That's what a 10th step is. So you can pray yourself to sleep, relax. So another thing that is helpful is to learn something new. Our brains are the most magnificent computer that God ever made. And, I've read where most of us only use about 10% of our brain in a day's time, only about 10%. So if you really want to get into some good self-care, learn something different, something new, or explore something. There's things. I live in Buffalo Gap, a little town of 460 people, and I go to Abilene, but I just go to certain areas of Abilene. And there's days that I have spent with a friend that we have driven all over Abilene, and I've seen things, new buildings, new areas going up that I didn't even know was there. If you have universities or colleges, drive in your town, drive around the campuses. They are most of the time beautiful, they're interesting. And then you could even take a short trip out of town, a little road trip. My friend Misty and I do little short road trips. And my girls and I, every once in a while, will say, we need a road trip. And, it doesn't matter what the destination is. We just get in, one of our big cars, and here we go. One of the SUVs, and we go on a road trip. And it's an adventure, and we never know what we're going to come up against or find. And that is good self-care, is to learn something new and to explore. One of the things, and I'm not going to say I'm going to do this, I'm not going to commit to it, but I used to do a little artwork, and then, a lot of needlework and all in my other life. And I don't do anything like that anymore. And I have thought about taking some art lessons. And so that's on my bucket list, and I probably will, but, not right this minute. But I want to do something that I've never done before, and that is maybe take an art lesson. And I keep saying I'm going to take dance lessons, and I'm going to take some dance lessons this year. That's on my bucket list, top of the list. One of the things that I see, my friend Misty and she has a sister and a dear friend, Ashley, that a lot of y'all know. They go out different times of every few months, and they'll do stargazing. And, I don't know what was, because I'm not up on all of that, but they got up one morning a couple of weeks ago at 3 o'clock in the morning, went way out in a cotton field and put blankets down and laid down and looked up at the stars. That is self-care. doing something unusual, something fun, but something interesting. And I don't know that would be interesting to me. Probably would if I'd get out myself long enough to go along with them. But it's, get out of your comfort zone and doing something, learn something new and explore something different. So number 5, and this is kind of what I've already touched on a little bit, is structure and routine. It is so important. Now, I don't mean that you have yourself so, busy or have every hour of the day filled that you can't do anything spontaneous. I'm talking about having a routine. Get up basically at the same time every morning. Any, I think, medical or mental professional will tell you this. Basically get up the same time every morning. Now, on weekends or a day off, you might fudge on that a little bit, but don't do it very often because your time is set in your brain and you don't want to get that off. So, get up at basically the same time every morning. Have a routine. Do prayer and meditation. Do your breakfast, whatever your routine is. And then sometimes it's okay to vary from it. But also it's very important to keep a healthy routine, particularly for addicts, because we can get out of step in a hurry. And so the routine helps, having your certain 12-step meetings to go to, either on Zoom, by phone, or in-person meetings. Do those and show up at the time that you say that you're going to show up. And like I said, this goes right along with doing your food prep, the eating, your meals, and regular exercise. Okay, so number 6 is practice mindfulness. You know how to practice mindfulness? It's about focus. I have ADD. And I had a hard time focusing on one thing. I could focus on 3 or 4 things at one time. For instance, many, many, many years ago, my husband and I were sitting in a restaurant and had a high booth. The back of it was very high. And I was sitting there visiting with him. In the booth behind us, there was a couple that it sounded like they were breaking up. They were breaking up a marriage. They were, kind of arguing and all. And then across the way, there was an elderly couple that was talking about their health. Anyway, I was involved in all of those conversations and talking to my husband. And before I knew it, this was before I was a counselor too. Before I knew it, I was turning around and giving that couple advice. Now, that's what ADD people do. So I had to learn after I was diagnosed with ADD. I had a coach for about 6 months, and she taught me how to focus. And everything that I'm saying here, she taught me. She taught me to focus, to get a routine, a daily routine, stay with it, be mindful of what you're doing. And so mindfulness is, really paying attention, staying conscious. And those of us with eating disorders in particularly can go unconscious with the food and a heartbeat. That's why we have clients do what we call mindful eating, to pay attention to what they're eating, to pay attention to how they're chewing the food, to pay attention to how they feel when the food goes down. Pay attention to what's going on in the mind about, I'm eating too much, this is not good for me, blah, 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 all the chatter that goes in the head. So mindfulness is very, very important. And, along with mindfulness, it's about practicing breathing, just taking some deep breaths, and then slowly let it out. Take a deep breath and slowly let it out. Take another deep breath and slowly let it out. And when you do this, it can help you practice just being in the moment. Being in the moment. That is action. Being in the moment, staying focused, being mindful of people around you, being mindful of your surroundings, being mindful of practicing recovery. Okay, and along with this is about prayer meditation, mindfulness. And the type of meditation I'm talking about, you might be very advanced in meditation. You may sit and actually meditate, in silence. And I love it. And I love to go into silence. But it makes it really calls for a decision on my part to do that, to be aware that I want to go into that silence. And when you do that and you really do meditate in that silence, you'll be amazed at what you can learn from yourself, about yourself. All right. And it's also a chance to really listen to God when you go into a meditation. I've done several weekends for 12-step programs called a silent retreat. And they have been some of the most powerful retreats that I've ever experienced. And it's where they all get there on Friday night and have dinner and meet and greet and enjoy each other. And then that evening, everyone goes into silence. And I mean silence, no talking. That night, all day Saturday. And people would, go off by themselves, or they'd go out in the yard, weather permitting. You'd see them out riding. You would see them just praying. You'd just see them in a pose of meditation pose. I've seen them climb up in trees. I've seen them just practicing being by themselves. And after a while, when you get into that silence, it is wonderful, wonderful. And most of us don't want to come out of it. And usually in the retreat, we don't come out of the silence until after dinner and in that last evening session. And once people do begin to come out of it, I noticed that people are very quiet. You'd think they'd want to just be hollering at each other across the room and talking. They're not. It's a very gentle re-entry. And so I really encourage people to spend some time in quiet meditation and then in just being in silence. And, once if your brain gets busy thinking about all of that stuff that you need to be doing or whatever, you can stop it. This is where the mindfulness comes in. Focus on something. Focus on something. Hold a candle, light it. Focus on that candle. Focus on the light on the candle. Focus on something. Bring yourself back to the moment and enjoy the silence. I love silent retreats. And then we on Sunday, what I'd always have is what we call God as I understand Him, or don't. And people would get up and speak and talk about their experiences of going through silence. And it would be, some of them would have so many revelations, things revealed to them through that silence, which they would have missed had they not pulled off from their busy life and given themselves that gift. Okay, number 7 is talk with a friend. Get with people you enjoy. Have a best friend and someone that you can tell everything to, but mainly that you can laugh with and have a good time. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it can be your grown children, it can be, but have someone that you can talk to, be with, and enjoy. Life's too short not to. Life is too short not to. I have a dear friend, and y'all all know her, Misty. I call her my Misty girl. She is, I'm nearly twice her age, but I don't think age matters. It's like I am her age when we're together. I hope to God she doesn't feel 79 that I am. She's shaking her head no. Yeah. But I just feel young and young at heart when we're together. And, we do fun things, and they're simple things. It doesn't have, we can find something to laugh about in Hobby Lobby or Walmart, and it's mostly about ourselves. We find something about ourselves to laugh about. So, If you can't get out and talk to someone in person, get on the phone and talk to them. Call shut-ins, call people that, if you really want to get your mind off yourself, and do some good self-care. When I say your mind off yourself, the negative thoughts, pick up the phone and call a shut-in and talk with them. That's good self-care. And then number 8 is, you may not like this, but I love to read. I started reading when I was a little girl, and that's what I think saved my life coming out of a dysfunctional family. I would read book after book after book. One book I might be in San Francisco. I didn't know where San Francisco was, but I could envision. I had an imagination, and books helped me do that. So I still love to read today, and I have to make time. I have to really set aside time to read, and I read. I do read serious things because I keep up with my, the business that I'm in. I read things anything I can get my hands on about the addiction business, and about not so much the business, but how to treat people. If there's something new, I want to know about it, and I keep up with eating disorders and, any new information out. But that's not the fun thing that I do. I like to read novels. I just love to read fun things, enjoyable things. I can just get caught up. I'll tell you what I'm reading now, and I mentioned it last week. It's certainly not a novel, but I'm enjoying every bit of it, and that's Love Is Not Enough by Lois. I mean, it's not by Lois. It's by an author wrote it. It is about Lois. Bill W. There's many books, much written about Bill. And they would mention Lois in that, but never really a lot about Lois. So this is a whole book about Lois and what she went through living with an alcoholic. And in Al-Anon family group, we have or had, and I was guilty of it, we all are, we put old timers up on pedestals. Well, I thought Lois was just never got angry, and that she was just an angel, and that I put her up on a pedestal, and I could never measure up to Lois. That was my goal, to be as, helpful to my husband as she was to hers, and da-da-da. Well, her book talks about, every page that I read about Lois, I read my own pain of how it felt to have an alcoholic parent and an alcoholic spouse, and addicted children, but particularly living with the spouse. It's the most difficult journey that I can imagine, or any illness that you go through. Physical illness, I think, is in some ways much easier to go through as a family member, because that it is a disease, until you learn about alcoholism or eating disorders. But physical disease, everybody's on board to help. They'll bring in food, they will send flowers and cards and all. Alcoholism is different. Having someone that's an addict of any sort is usually kept a secret. People don't talk about the feelings, they don't talk about the elephant in the living room. And so if you are an Al-Anon, or someone in Al-Anon, I would really highly recommend giving them the gift of this book, When Love Is Not Enough, about Lois Wilson's story. So read something fun or read something interesting. Stay off of social media. Don't just stay on social media all of the time, and the telephone. Another thing, if you can afford it, and what I would say is, if you have a job and you can afford other things, I would highly recommend that you get a massage. It'd be great if you could get one weekly or bi-weekly or once a month. But that is a really good way to do some self-care. Get a massage. And then set aside time for self-care. I've gone over 9 different things that you can do for self-care. And, some of you won't do any of them. Some of you may do one or two. But the thing about self-care is you've got to care enough about yourself that you'll put yourself on your calendar. You've got to put it on the calendar and make time for yourself. You know, one of the things that I've started doing, and I've done it for years and years and years, is I get my nails done because I enjoy getting my nails done. And I do that and probably will do that from now on. I love to get pedicures and, you know, massages, and just do whatever you can do for yourself now. And if you can't afford to do those things, get a group of friends together and y'all give each other manicures and pedicures. During the pandemic, we would do that. We'd gather up here in my living room, and I was the designated person that did the manicures and pedicures. But it was fun, and you know, because we couldn't go out and do them. And so these are some ways to take care of yourself. And I hope that you will learn to love yourself enough to take care of yourself. And the number one thing, if you're an addict, the number one thing is stay clean and sober and abstinent from your addiction. If you don't do that, all the self-care in the world is not going to make any difference. You know, if you're overweight and you're not feeding yourself appropriately, you know, a massage isn't going to help that much, because, and honestly, it won't. And if you are practicing any addiction, or if you have relapsed over the holidays, get back on track. That's all you have to do, is step back on track. That could be the best self-care that you could give yourself, is to treat your addiction regardless of what it is, and to love yourself enough to know that you do matter, that you matter enough to spend the time to recover. And recovery takes time. It does. And I know myself, when my husband got sober, I had been in Al-Anon for over 14 years. I knew the deal. I was already a counselor, you know, an addiction counselor. I was working with alcoholics and drug addicts every day. And nothing, I mean, I had given up years before trying to get him sober. I prayed for him. I loved him. I got off his back, got out of his way, and went on with my own life. And lo and behold, one day in 1982, January 31st, 1982, he went to his first AA meeting and he got sober. And, you know, I was so thrilled for him and our family. I mean, I was excited. But, you know, after all of the information and Al-Anon and all of that I had, I still went through a time that the big book talks about in the chapter to the wives. I went through a time of jealousy. It was like he was gone all the time drinking. Now he's gone all the time to AA meetings, and all those people that I've been going to open AA meetings with for years, they loved and adored him, even the women, and they'd go up and hug and kiss him, and which was great. He was a newcomer. They needed to do that. But I got my little feelings hurt, and so I had to work through that. And so this is why we have to really take a step back, look at ourselves, and do some self-care, and have that healthy self-esteem, enough healthy self-esteem and self-worth to know that you do matter, and it is okay for you to take the time to take care of yourself. And I'll tell you, when you start doing that, your family will be thrilled. They want you to do that. They may complain a little bit if you're not there, but in the long run, keep doing it, because they're going to benefit from it, because you're going to be easier to live with. So I don't know if any of you heard any of this. I'm just sitting here talking to myself, it feels like. But next week, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to just get back to some of the basic things. And I'm going to be talking about the love of my heart, or what I like to do. And that is talk about addictions, particularly eating disorders, particularly compulsive overeating. Why do some people recover from compulsive overeating, and why do some not? You know, what's the secret? Is there a secret for recovery from any eating disorder, but particularly compulsive overeating? I was at the grocery store yesterday, and there was a woman in a wheelchair that asked me if I would hand her something from the top shelf, which I did. And I looked down and she screamed and I did, and we laughed. And it was someone that I've known for over 50 years. We used to go to church together. And every time I'd go on one of those diets, when I was, I'd lose 100 or 130, 40 pounds, everyone in church that was overweight, they would want the diet and they'd go on it. And this woman did. She'd go on everything that I went on. And we'd both lose weight, and then we'd both gain it back and gain more. I did that, till finally, by the grace of God, I found out about a treatment center in LA and went to treatment September the 19th of 1985, and had been in recovery for 36 years. And I see people that knew me back then. She knew me back then, when I was in 280 or more, and there was a part of her I noticed I make this up, I'm making up, that she was embarrassed in some ways to see me. She was much bigger than I've ever seen her. Now, she was in a wheelchair, but she filled up the wheelchair. Her weight just went over the wheelchair. And I had heard that she'd been very ill. In fact, I'd heard that she died. So I was very glad to see that she was still alive. But we got to talking, and what she said, without mentioning the weight, she took my hand and she said, and told me how proud she was that I had found recovery or found change. And she said, I know you love what you do out there at Shades. And she took my hand and she said, she never called it an eating disorder. She said, I have dealt with, I have battled all my life. And she said, I'm still battling it. And she said that she has diabetes and arthritis, and she's still struggling to treat the diabetes. And she's lost a leg. Her leg had to be amputated all the way up to the hip joint. That's what diabetes does, and that is what compulsive overeating does. She said, I've eaten. Now, she didn't say eating, but she, in some way, I can't remember the word she said, but in some ways, she was saying that in some ways that she wished that she had gone the route that I had gone, and that how proud she was of me. And what I told the lady, I said, it's never too late. It's never too late to get recovery. You're still breathing in and out. And she gave me her phone number and her address, and she said, please come to see me. And I'm going to go see her. Because she reminded me that had I not found recovery, I could be in that wheelchair myself. I could have lost a leg with diabetes. So that's what I have for today. Next week, we are going to talk about, and like I said, is eating ourselves to death. Eating ourselves to death. And because that is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and without treatment and recovery, I absolutely would be dead today. And I just, and I'm going to really look and study this week as much as I can, and talk to some people that have struggled with recovery, and to see what keeps them stuck. Why do some people recover and others don't? And my answer to that, I think, is if you really seek God's will. Now, he's not going to do it for us. He's not going to knock the food. I want him to knock the food out of my hand. I had to do the footwork, and he blessed the effort. And there was days early in those first 5 years that I had to pray over every bite that I put in my mouth, every bite. So I would eat what I needed to eat and not too much of it. Because that was my problem. I never got enough. I could never feel full. I can today. I get enough today. And this is what I would tell anyone with an eating disorder. If you stay in recovery, I will promise you, the food will be restored into its proper place. And that is through, I believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, God will heal any area of our life that we're willing to surrender to him. But as long as we want to do it ourselves, he'll let us. So let's talk next week about eating disorders, particularly compulsive overeating, and what's the roadblock that keeps people from giving up the food? And that's what it is, folks. I hate to tell you, you cannot continue doing what you've always done, or you'll always get what you've always got, and that is, if you overeat, you're going to gain weight. If you undereat, you're going to become anorexic. If you eat and overeat and binge and purge, you're going to become bulimic, and those are killing diseases. So, alrighty, enjoyed. It seems like I've been talking to myself because I don't see anyone on the screen, but I've enjoyed visiting with you, and you didn't get to see my new green jacket. Maybe you are seeing it. Okay, yes, it's going to be on Facebook. I've got 4 closets full of clothes, and we were doing a little workshop down at Alexandria, Louisiana, and I've really gone to packing very light. I take just the amount of clothes that I'm going to use. Well, we were invited to, the last night we were there, to a beautiful party where they were recording some Christmas music for the church, and lo and behold, I didn't have anything to wear. Everything I had, they'd already seen, and it was too dressy. And so we made a trip to Walmart, and I got this jacket. And, one more time, Walmart came through. So that's just me. And, my children and Misty sang a song for me over in our Christmas party last week. And it was to the tune, She's So Vain. And I own up to it. Yes, I am so vain. I love to look nice. And that's been going on since I was a little girl. And it'll probably be going on till I'm 100 or 105. All righty. See you next week. Love all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.